It seems like every day the Switch gets better and better for shoot 'em up fans. In fact, there are so many on the Switch that it's likely that you may have missed a couple, or maybe weren't sure if you wanted to drop the cash on some lesser known titles. So here's a couple of the games that I think are worth checking out if you're a serious or even casual fan of the scrolling shooter genre. The first game I want to take a look at is called Task Force Campus. This game came out in the beginning of May and it was originally an itch.io game. Of the 3 games I'm about to talk about, this one has the hottest style in my opinion. Everything from the ships to the enemies and the music all blend together so well with each other. The bosses are all based off of aquatic life but manage to make themselves distinctly unique from the Darius games. The soundtrack is an absolute mood captured in sound waves. It's one song that builds off of itself until finally reaching a climax at the final boss. There's several different ships to unlock as well and filters to apply. It calls itself a, quote, very intense one-credit shooter, and that it certainly is. The action is fast-paced, and you have a life bar instead of hit points. You recover life from your life bar when you stop firing, so it makes it a nice balance of shoot to get rid of everything on screen, or try and get more life to take another hit. I think that Task Force Campus plays incredibly well, but there are definitely a couple of hiccups that keep it from being a masterpiece. First of all, the default filter is really bad. It looks alright in handheld mode, but when you're playing it on an actual TV, it just looks like garbage. It feels like they were going for a CRT type filter, but like didn't finish or something. Thankfully, you have the option to have no filter, so I recommend just playing it that way. In fact, most of the filters in this game aren't really that great, if I'm being honest. Another gripe that I have is that while it plays in a vertical aspect ratio, at least as of right now, there's no way to flip the screen so that you can play the Switch vertically, for instance with a flip grip or something. For the time being, kinda seems like a bit of wasted potential, but hopefully it'll get added in an update or something. However, the biggest issue that I have with it is its length. There's only 3 bosses, and you can finish the entire game in about 10 or 15 minutes. In fact, I ended up beating the game on its default difficulty on my 3rd try. It's a small development team, only being made up of 3 individuals, but I wish it was a little more challenging on the default difficulty. You can't play in harder modes until beating the easier ones, and I'd prefer to have a more difficult standard difficulty than extra difficulty modes I need to unlock, at least for a game that's this short. However, the style, and the fact that it can be played on loop do make up for this shortcoming at least a little bit, but I do wish there were online leaderboards or something for high scores. It's $5.99 on the eShop, so if you've got some extra gold coins lying around, I'd say it's definitely worth checking out, just don't expect it to take too long to beat it. Now the next game I want to talk about strips down to just the core elements of what makes a shoot 'em up to create an intensely addicting arcade-style shooter using only one button. The gimmick behind Switch and Shoot, as I just said, is that it only uses one button. Every time you shoot, your ship changes its one-dimensional movement. In Switch and Shoot, you are either moving left or you are moving right. While this may seem simple, there's actually a lot of skill involved in successfully navigating through the game's several sectors. The goal of each sector is to collect 5 golden coins. Each coin you get upgrades your weapon slightly until you get the laser. Once you've got that, the sides of the screen become impenetrable and you're forced to navigate a narrow path until you can get the last gold coin to bring you to the next sector. If you miss a coin, your ship loses 1 level of power, and trust me, you do not want to be doing that, especially at the beginning of a sector. One mistake can lead to a domino effect of bad things happening. Thankfully, there are also some shield power-ups to collect to help you a little bit, although don't think that's gonna make things much easier. Switch and Shoot also has boss battles to change up the pace a little bit. The enemies are all the same, and there's only 1 track of music, but somehow everything does manage to stay fun and doesn't get tedious or boring. The music that plays during the game is amazing. Like, I'm serious, this sounds like it could have come straight out of Capcom on the NES or something. Each game you play only lasts a couple of minutes or less, and there's much more of a focus on keeping track of your ship rather than what enemies are doing. Because of this, I can forgive the lack of enemy variety a little bit, but it would have been nice to see more than just one. There's alternate color palettes that you can unlock, although you can also just customize the colors of each sprite individually, so I don't really see the point in this. There are sadly no online leaderboards, although the preset high scores are pretty tough to beat. Switch and Shoot is thankfully compatible with the flip grip, and all you need to do to activate the Tate mode is to hit the minus button on your controller. At $3.99, Switch and Shoot should be a no-brainer for anyone who likes more old-school style shoot-'em-ups. If you're more into cave stuff, you might not find this to be too interesting. It's got a unique style and charm that I really appreciate, and it's one of my favorite games that I've got on the Switch. And lastly, I want to talk about Sturden Binary Stars. This one is a little bit more expensive than the last two I mentioned, but still won't set you back too much. It's only like $12. Sturden is a much bigger game than Task Force Campus or Switch and Shoot. It almost gives off a roguelike aura. Similar to Task Force Campus, it's a single life shooter with a health bar. However, each level is procedurally generated, and every run you do tends to drop different items, making no two runs exactly the same. You've got a pretty hefty life bar this time around, but don't think that means the game's gonna be easy. The first level or two start off manageably, but the difficulty increases the further you go, unsurprisingly. While not flashy in its design, all of the player and enemy ships are very well drawn, and there's a decent variety in enemy types as well. Sadly, there's no crazy enemy designs like giant shrimps or something, but the enemy designs are nice. There are several different ships to unlock, and each one plays almost entirely different from the previous. The default though is probably my favorite since it has a melee attack built in, effectively giving it 3 weapons instead of 2. One aspect that I really liked was that there are different variants of each boss, so although they may look the same, the attack patterns change up, so the first level boss might not be the same on your second go around. While it's definitely difficult, it's not insurmountable, and once you've beaten the main game, there are a bunch of extras like weekly challenges, boss rushes, online leaderboards. Sturden Binary Stars is definitely my favorite low-budget shoot-'em-up on the Switch so far. If you're only going to get one game from the 3 that I've mentioned, I would recommend Sturden, because you're going to get the most replay value out of that. I'm curious though, what are some of your favorite lower profile shoot-'em-ups on Switch? I know that there's a lot on there, and there's even some that I own that I didn't have time to put into this video. Maybe one of these days I'll make another one with the suggestions from some of you. Anyways, I'm Bofner, and thanks for watching. See ya!
Avril Lavigne is so hot though.
I gotta agree.